Hello. If you're looking to get a mortgage soon, you're in the right place. I have been struggling between the government scheme, putting 5% deposit down, or whether I should try and put 10% down and go for what different types of mortgages. Been really confused, not sure what to do, so I thought, let me model it. I've been in banking for the last 4 years. I've studied economics, so I'm confident in these figures. Um, and I just guess I wanted to share this with everybody because it's helped me make a really good decision. So I'm looking for a property value of 250k, and I was first looking at putting 5% down under the government scheme. So that requires a 12.5k deposit. So just to check what rates I can get, 250k, 12.5k deposit. I'll just search for a mortgage, and I'm going to assume a fixed rate. So I'm going to pick the lowest possible to keep it fair. And this is 3.79%. 3.79% rate and 25 years mortgage. Okay, so the calculator has calculated everything. It does everything for you. It basically tells you the monthly payment that you will need to make, 1,226.24, which, as per the calculator from RBS, 1,226.24. So it's very accurate to the penny. And down here, it's just got a complete cash flow table for the whole life of your mortgage. And just to point out, with this mortgage, at the start, you can see in red is your interest, in green is your principal. You're paying a lot more interest than you are principal. And as you go down, interest starts to decrease and your principal starts to increase. That's generally how things out of your favour work. Pay somebody first, you win later. That's not how we want it. So that's my first part of the analysis of how the government scheme works. The next one, I guess, is a bit more of a comparison. So I'm going to assume there's no growth in the economy, there's no downturns. I just want to look strictly at interest and principal. So over 2 years, you pay at this 3.79%, 17k interest. Over 2 years, you pay 12k principal. Okay, so I've got the 5 year and 10 year there as well, and I've just taken them away, taken the differences here. So over 2, 5, and 10 years, you are in a loss. Interest versus principal, 5k, 10k, and then back down to 7k. The reason why that heads back down again is because you've started to pay more principal off during the 10 years. So after 10 years, you're starting to head towards a surplus. So now I'm going to assume a market change. I'm going through this fairly quickly. If you do want to reach out, anilbitlive.com is my email address, so we can talk about any of this in more detail. But this part of the calculator assumes a steady growth or a steady downturn. I'll just set this to 0 so that there's no change in property value at all. So this part of the analysis basically is 2% growth over 10 years. I'll just put 2% in there. This compounds the property value growth. So after 2 years, if the economy grows by 2% consistently, you're making 10k. After 5 years, you make 26k. So looking really good. And I've just added the interest minus principal here. By adding, it's actually taking away 10k in surplus here from the property value change. But interest minus principal is negative, so overall we are 4k up, well 5k. And then over the right here we've got total equity, so that is how much you've paid off in the property plus how much has been made in the value increase. So overall, after 10 years, you've got £124,000 sitting in your property. However, I just want to point out that over 10 years, you're also paying 77k worth of interest. So ultimately, it's more like 47k that you're actually in surplus. One thing to mention is some people don't want to pay this 1,226 a month. It may be too high, which I would agree with. So some people might go for a 35-year mortgage instead, which is looking like a bit of a nicer figure monthly, 1,021. I just would like to say that now, after 10 years, you've paid so much more interest. You're still in a loss after 10 years. Principal, you've only paid down 39k, but you've paid 80k of interest. So be very aware that increasing the number of years of your mortgage term really makes a big difference, especially if your rate is high. So for me, that's a complete no-go. I'd rather try for a 10% deposit, work towards that, and lower the rate. So if I just have a look at a 10% instead, That's a 25k deposit, so I'll just pop that in here. So instead 25,000, search for a mortgage. I'm going to search for the lowest one again, so 2.5%, and I will pop 2.5% in here, 2.5, and change that back to 25 years, and it's looking nice. My monthly payment is a K, 1k, just like we had before. However, the difference now is my interest is all surplus, interest versus principal. So I'm paying down more principal than I am interest. That's what we want. We want that in our lives. The same thing here. There's an upturn here, and it's going up 2% every year. We have 128k worth of equity in there, but net we're 81k up, which I think is great. Even if you have no growth at all, you're still up. And it's always worth considering if the property goes down. That's still not a huge loss. You've still got some equity here. So overall, generally, I would say that going for a 10% deposit, get your rate as low as possible and try not to extend the term of your mortgage, because it just means more interest, even for this one. So it's still you're much better off, but now look, just by going up to 35 years, you've gone negative in your interest versus principal. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the two mortgages. I've prepared this already here, mortgage compare. So the first mortgage we looked at was 5% at 3.79 over 25 years. And this one is 10% at 2.5. And you've got the calculation here. So you've got 1226 a month on the 5%, and you've got 1,000 monthly payment on the 10%. I understand it's harder to accumulate another 12.5k to put 25k down for a deposit, but as we go down, I'll show you why it's worth working towards that as opposed to rushing to buy a property. So you've got interest versus principal again. These are the same figures, just comparing them next to each other. So you can just see that surplus and that loss there for you. But one thing I added in difference is this cash flow table. So this considers how much cash you have in your pocket when considering the monthly payments, because you're paying £200 a month more here. So using the 3.79%, after 2 years you've paid in total 29k. That includes interest and principal. But over the 2 years with the 2.5% scheme, you have 24k. So you're actually 5k better off over 2 years, just in your pocket, generally. But as we just discussed, you've had to put 12.5k down inside the property just to get that benefit. So what I did over here is year to deposit payback. So I understand you've chucked another 12.5k into the property, but over 2.1 years, just by having lower interest rates and having more cash in your pocket, it just takes 2 years to get that 12.5k back, and anything after that you're in surplus. So I think that it's a really no-brainer to really fight towards that 10% deposit and get as low rate as possible. And that's the message that I really wanted to put out there. Even if you change this to 35 like we did before and get the monthly payments to a similar amount, you can still see that you're winning here. There's 10k, 24k, 42k loss. These are all green. It's all positive. Really think about this, because it's going to benefit you in the long run. And you generally, as you go further into your future, you want to be sitting on cash. You want to be sitting on money. That's the key message I want to put across today. Neil Be It Live is my email address. Feel free to contact me about this calculator. If you see anything that I can add to it, I'll do it. And I've provided this for anyone to use below. So feel free to just take a look, have a play with the numbers, and again, reach out to me if there's anything. And just, I guess, a disclaimer here, this is not advisory, this is more a guide for your considerations. I just wanted to share the message that I've received by looking at these numbers. So feel free to go for the mortgage scheme, but I would personally, this is me, I'm going for the deposit for 10% because I feel like it's going to benefit me a lot more in the future. So good luck with your mortgage hunting, and see you soon.